Everything's on fire. Everything's on fire. Everything's on fire.
Happy Tuesday and welcome back to the Dynasty Heat Seeker Show presented by RotoHeat.com. As always, I am joined by my main man, Rob Sullivan, and this time we have an extremely special guest with us. We have Tera Roberts from Fantasy Pros. If you aren't one of the thousands and the thousands following her over on Twitter, you better do so. Tera, how are you today? And thank you so much for hanging out with us.
No, I'm doing great, guys. Thank you for having me. Really excited to be here.
Yeah, it'll be a fun one tonight. We are going to overreact like we did last week. We're going to overreact to some preseason football because we know everybody loves to overreact to the thing they just saw happen. And there's a lot that we can overreact to. I mean, we're scared by the Adam Troutman news, terrified by the Etienne news. A lot of things are going on in the world. Mr. Sullivan, take it away. Let's talk about news and notes before we get to the overreactions.
Yeah, well, we'll start in Carolina, and we'll start with Robbie Anderson. So he signed himself a new 2-year contract today. What is it, $29.5 million. Keeps him in town for, I guess we can assume, a couple of years, where he was going into his last year of his contract this season. So he's got his old quarterback back in Sam Darnold. He's going to be lining up out there with DJ Moore, almost forgot his name. That's cool. And Terrace Marshall. So I guess my question is, what are we expecting out of Robbie Anderson in 2021? And because this is a dynasty show, what are we looking for him to do going forward? And Tera, I'll let you take us away.
Yeah, I was actually looking at his ADP, and he's currently sitting in a half PPR ADP wide receiver number 31. And, I think that's a really good spot for him. I'm super pumped for him about the contract. I thought the signing of Sam Darnold was, even though he did great with Teddy Bridgewater last year, the signing of Sam Darnold is still pretty good for him. I think the connection between them appears to be very good. He'll be a nice, safe security blanket for Darnold, who I think will turn things around decently. I'm not like super in, like he's going to be fantastic, but he'll be, usable this year. I think he's going to be able to turn it around. And I think it's a really good position for him. I think he'll be able to continue what he's doing, continue to be a very reliable option as a wide receiver 2 in fantasy for us. And, I really like the spot in the situation for him, especially with CMC coming back as well, maybe opening things up downfield. Just overall good situation for the receiving corps.
Yeah, it's hard not to like the direction they're going. I know everybody's kind of on the fence about Darnold. You either kind of love him or you hate him, but he's got a ton of talent around him, and we've been seeing it throughout the preseason. Hubbard seems to be a good pickup at running back to be a nice complement to what they've got with CMC. Anderson, Marshall, all the guys you both have mentioned appear to be just continuing to add on to this dynamic offense. I really hope to see something out of the tight end position to really send this thing over the top and give Darnold all the weapons he's never had before in the NFL, because it could be a fun situation there in Carolina as they grow. Robbie Anderson appears to be, a really good beneficiary from this situation because he seems to have the trust of, not only the quarterback, but this offense to really put him in a position to be fantasy relevant. So I love your take. Wide receiver 2 seems like a really nice spot to have him be sitting in. And he's probably one of the more inexpensive wide receiver 2s because I've seen him traded even recently for a fair price. But, I wouldn't be afraid to target him even for, a good 2 to 3 year window of still having nice fantasy value, at least for me personally. What about you, Mr. Sullivan?
I agree. So Carolina had 3 top 24 wide receivers last year in Curtis Samuel, DJ Moore, and Robbie Anderson. And none of them scored any touchdowns because Teddy Bridgewater threw 15 of them. So I think CMC coming back to Tera's point is a huge boost to this offense. And that gets you into scoring position. And, the relationship that he has with Sam Darnold in Darnold's rookie season, when Todd Bowles was still the coach in New York, he kind of took the reins off of Darnold in the last 4 or 5 weeks. I guess he figured he was done there. And him and Robbie Anderson went nuts down the stretch that season. So I think that they can recreate that as well. I like DJ Moore going more into the slot and Marshall on the other side. I think this is going to be a pretty good offense, except I'm a little bit concerned about what's probably the worst offensive line in football. But hey, Christian McCaffrey can help that out quite a bit with just how talented he is and his ability to get open in the passing game as well. All right, so now we'll shift to bad news. It is what it is. Ian Rappaport, I think, was the first to report it this morning. Travis Etienne has been diagnosed with the dreaded Lisfranc injury. Adam Scheffner then later came out and said that he'd been placed on IR. I learned something today that only active players on the 53-man roster as of the start of the season can be on limited IR. So Etienne is definitely out for the season. My question is, in addition to this being good for James Robinson, Brad, did the Jags bring another running back in, or do they just feed Robinson like they did a year ago?
Different staff would make me lean to believe that they're probably going to look for somebody else. And my guess would be, they probably look at who gets cut over the next week and a half, and they add some depth. I mean, we've seen James Robinson prove that he can handle a workload. I mean, he had like 240 carries last year, had something like 40, 50 targets, receptions. I mean, he's a guy that I have no doubt can now move back into running back one conversations, because I don't expect them to find anything that's going to be better than what Robinson is. He's young. He may not be the type of back that Urban necessarily loves, because obviously we know Etienne was his pick at running back. And I could see them look to add somebody that can do the big play that Etienne could bring to that offense, but still rely on James Robinson, because look, he did it at the NFL level. And I respect the kid. I think he worked hard, and he proved that it doesn't matter when you got drafted, you can still be dominant at the NFL level. Even on a crappy Jags team, he was, a top 5 fantasy running back. But, I don't want to rain on a Clemson alum over here. Tara, what do you think about this situation? And I guess from your perspective, not so much in James Robinson as much as, do you think they bring somebody in?
Yeah, I'm super heartbroken over it for Travis. I mean, and he's not a very injury-prone player, so I hate that, because I know a lot of Clemson running backs have gotten the injury-prone stigma before, understandably. But so I was really surprised and disappointed for him to start off his career that way. But in terms of James Robinson, I agree with you that, it's a different staff, and Urban Meyer is super unpredictable. It's kind of hard to believe what direction he's actually heading. But I don't know. I mean, yeah, I don't think any of the names that are currently out there or anything that they would target. I don't see them going, like, what's the point in going out and getting a Todd Gurley or Le'Veon Bell? What are they going to add to what you currently have right now? But yeah, I think you make a good point about if someone gets cut within, the next week or so, them looking at pulling someone from there. That makes sense. James Robinson, it'll be interesting to see how high he shoots up, because, particularly in redraft, I wouldn't take any different approaches with him in Dynasty, just because, we'll still have Travis Etienne to deal with next year. But yeah, in redraft, I think he is going to shoot up incredibly now. Yeah. And, it does make me a little bit worried when it comes to that, because they might be a little pass happy. I can see that coming from Urban Meyer, and the weapons that they have, all the way down to, even when you look at Marvin Jones, that's somebody who can be incredibly productive within an offense. So, and then playing from behind as well, because it's not like they're going to make a dramatic turnaround. So, I'm still kind of fearful, because I know he loves Carlos Hyde. He'll obviously be giving some good volume to him. And I don't think it'll be the same exact situation where James Robinson is going to get the amount of carries that he did last year. So I'm a little bit concerned on that end. Even if they pick someone up and don't really utilize them, I think he is going to put Carlos Hyde in there a decent amount.
Well, and the fact that Etienne was who he handpicked him. He wanted him to be the man. He talked him up all offseason. I want to throw a curveball out, though. Rob, I was talking to you a little pre-show on it. I love Sony Michel and hate that he's still in New England. Could this be a guy that gets targeted as a trade target to maybe a team like Jacksonville or the Rams, somebody who needs a running back? I'm still a Sony truther, even though New England seems to hate me and him. Either one of you are more than welcome to answer it. I know I'm throwing out a crazy, what if scenario, but could a guy like that, somebody who was, highly drafted, is still young and talented, could you see them make a move like that and go target somebody, or is a team like Jacksonville really not ready to compete, so shouldn't waste the capital? And the Rams, we know they've traded all their draft capital away. but I want to throw a hypothetical out there. So Sully, I'll start with you.
Just hijacking news and notes, hey?
I love to throw
right
curveballs. Hey, you know what? This is our show. We do whatever we want. We're throwing curveballs. So
well,
what do you think about that?
I'll try not to be Pedro Serrano, and I'll try to get a piece of your curveball. Hats for bats. No, I don't. My personal take on the whole Jacksonville situation is that this brings Carlos Hyde into some form of relevance. I don't think they really add anyone. And if they do, I don't think it makes a whole lot of sense for them to do it via trade. I think they just wait and see what shakes out at the end of camp. And if, Latavius Murray becomes available out of New Orleans, it's been discussed, or a Sony Michel, or perhaps a back of similar ilk, I think they go that route. I'm interested in what Jacksonville does from a team perspective. They don't have a great offensive line. James Robinson, I think he had like almost 90% of the backfield touches last year. I don't see that happening. I think Laviska Shenault could be the winner in all of this, because I think Etienne was more set up for that slot passing game kind of role, that Percy Harvin, Paris Campbell, Ohio State kind of thing. So I think Shenault could be the guy, because, if you go back to the draft, Urban Meyer really wanted Kadarius Toney, and he settled for Travis Etienne, which is boggling to me, but it is what it is. So my long-winded answer to your question and my question, and I'll stop talking.
So what do you think about that, Tara? Any crazy trade ideas that popped into your head about some of these guys moving teams, specifically at the running back position?
Yeah, I think, Rob, you're making a lot of sense about Urban Meyer, a guy that's hard to make sense of.
He's very unpredictable.
I think, you're right. I think that the big benefactor in all of this will probably be Shenault. And I would love it if they went and got a Sony Michel, because Brad, I'm sorry, I'm a Damian Harris truther.
I do. I like them both. I'm with you. I like Damian Harris as well, which is why I want Sony Michel to leave the team.
I think I like all their running backs. Well. I just want them all to play somewhere else.
Yeah. I'm heavily invested. I need him to do well. I'm going to lose my mind, but
I hear you.
But no, I think, when you think about it, it seems like, definitely he wanted Travis Etienne to be his guy, but Carlos Hyde is kind of his guy too, as well. In terms of the way that he knows them, knows him. So I don't know. I don't think that they'll trade. Maybe they'll bring someone in, but I think they're more of a candidate to stand pat.
I like it. All right, Mr. Sullivan, what else?
I got one
news back.
Thank you, sir. I appreciate that. I have one real quick one for you both. So Matt Nagy has said that Justin Fields is going to start their third and final preseason game. When does he start his first NFL game?
After the hit he took last week, I don't want him to play anymore in the preseason.
Oh, yeah.
He bounced right back up, though. He's a tough kid.
He is, yeah.
I will already go on record and say that I was underappreciating Justin Fields. Watching him play hurt and then seeing what he did, even in the preseason, I'm like, okay, I hate that my favorite team's in the NFC North because we're got to deal with this kid who is better than Andy Dalton already. I don't know why Andy Dalton.
We're all NFC North that have to deal with that kid.
Tara's a Packer, right? You're a Packer.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. I won't hold it against you. So I would expect him to start. My guess, because of the way their schedule rolls out, if they're doing well, probably not for a while. Maybe if they're doing bad, he plays by the bye week. But I don't know, Tara, what do you think?
I don't know. It's kind of I don't like when coaches do this with holding it's one thing to hold a rookie that you're not entirely sure on and thinks maybe needs some more time, but it seems like from my perspective, I've not been someone who was actually down on Justin Fields. I saw enough of him and his capabilities in college to feel very confident. And when he got drafted for the Bears, I was kind of gutted because that was, such a steal for them and such a great move. I think he's ready to start, but my guess would be that maybe they hold him until week 4 against the Lions. I just don't like it because I look back to Tua last year and just the position that you put them in when you bring them into a situation that maybe wasn't the best setup for them in the first place. The mental situation of bringing them in when you basically said, we didn't really want you to start off the year. We wanted you to sit back. We're going to wait until this portion of the year. It's a little odd, but yeah, I think week 4 against the Lions, maybe that they somehow don't want him to start off with, I get it. The Rams are a tough draw to begin your career with, but yeah, I think they'll give it a few games and then let him come in there.
Mr. Sullivan.
This one hurts me and it hurts my heart because I think he should play now. And I totally understand why, to Tara's point, you don't put him out against the Rams, but I'm starting to think you do. I don't think you can do the Fitz to a swap like the Dolphins did last year in Chicago. Like they start off, I'm just looking at their schedule. So they go Rams, Bengals, Browns, Lions, Raiders. So maybe you throw him in week 2, probably loses to the Browns, might beat the Lions, might not. I don't know. But then after the Lions game, it's Raiders. But then after that, it gets nasty. It goes Packers, Bucks, 49ers, Steelers, Ravens. So you can't bring him into that murderer's row. And I think their bye is in week 10. So I'm starting him in week 1. I know they probably won't. But the other real thing here is if Matt Nagy wants to have a chance to coach this team ever again, they need that kid on the field to win now because Andy Dalton's not bringing them any victories. And Pace and Nagy are bye-bye if they don't probably make the playoffs this year, to be honest. So I think you got to start him right out of the gate. That's my 2 cents. So.
All right, so there we go. So I want to pose. So this is a question that actually came up in the chat that I want to jump to because it's kind of news and notes ish. Yeah. But Tony Jones from the New Orleans Saints is a guy that keeps popping up. They keep talking about him. There keeps being some sort of buzz, even though when you see him on the field, there's nothing really super exciting about what you're seeing. I still think Latavius Murray is a better handcuff to Kamara than a guy like this. But we keep seeing the team almost pumping him up like maybe they're trying to find a way to get rid of Murray and let this kid be the next man up behind Kamara. Tara, have you heard a whole lot about him? Are you hearing anything that makes you think this kid is fantasy relevant? Matt, friend of the channel, asks, what's up with Tony Jones? So what's your take on Tony Jones and how do you feel about him? And is this anything to even think about fantasy-wise?
I'm not overreacting to it. I've seen some ads of him in deep leagues for Dynasty, and I think that makes sense for sure. Because it seems like he could be the next guy up with, Latavius Murray's a little up there in age. But in terms of redraft, I don't really see it. There's a lot of fodder going on, but I don't see him being someone that's going to be contributing. I think they're just going to rely heavily on Kamara and possibly not sub him out as much as they did with Latavius Murray if they were to go that route of cutting Latavius Murray. But I don't know. It'll be interesting to see, but I don't really see him doing big contributions. I know it's a very weird situation in there with the Saints, so I guess it depends on where they roll, where they're going with quarterback, maybe Jameis Winston, how they're handling the wide receiver situation there. So there's a lot of moving pieces. There's, potentially some opportunity and maybe a waiver wire ad at some point in the season, but I wouldn't see him as someone we're handcuffing quite yet.
I like it. All right, Sullivan, what do you think about Tony Jones, the former Fighting Irish running back?
So I'm not going to lie, until you said former Fighting Irish running back, I don't know who the heck this guy is. Definitely he's getting a lot of talk and a lot of hype. And I'm one of those guys that grabbed him off a waiver wire and threw him at the end of my dynasty bench. I figured, why not? I think Latavius Murray is standalone value, let alone handcuff value. So I'm not really sure what he's doing there. The only thing I can think of is there's probably some significant cap savings for getting rid of Latavius Murray and subbing me in with Tony Jones or even Devonta Freeman, who's also kicking around down there in New Orleans. So I don't think he's anything, but stranger things have happened. We just saw James Robinson, an undrafted free agent, go bonkers last year. So who knows?
Very true. The interesting thing for me in this whole situation is why? I mean, why are you worrying about adding Freeman? Why are you pumping up Jones when you've got Latavius, who's been very good in your system? Why are you worried about all this when you know that the offense is going to run through Kamara and it appears to be Callaway at this point, if Jameis is your guy, It's just a very strange situation that it feels to me like, it's obviously preseason chatter. You just kind of take it and you just kind of let it go in one ear and out the other. But, why are they doing all this at this point in the preseason? It makes me wonder if they're trying to trade, somebody away like a Latavius Murray. But
yeah, and Sean Payton isn't a smokescreen blowing head coach, right? Like he was talking up Taysom Hill forever, and everybody was wondering, what are you doing with Taysom Hill? You've got Drew Brees. You're insane. And then all of a sudden we saw him make Taysom Hill a thing. So if he's on the Tony Jones bandwagon, maybe that's happening. I don't know, but he's usually he's not a Pete Carroll. He doesn't say things and then that aren't even remotely true. So
right.
It's definitely something to watch. It's a good thing you brought it up.
And Latavius isn't necessarily giving you a ton of cap relief. I mean, he's got almost $2 million in dead cap, a 4.1 million dead cap or cap hit. I mean, he's not getting you a lot in savings, so it's not like you can.
Yeah, and I don't know what's going on there. So that was my only hunch. So
yeah, I don't know. So okay, well, Matt, hopefully that helped muddy up your thoughts on him, because obviously we don't really have anything to add at this point because it's a preseason. Yes, we're going to overreact, but don't overreact is what I always say about this stuff. You never know. All right, so we want to talk about some of what we've been seeing here. I know Mr. Sullivan is going to be hot and heavy on these quarterbacks because he's hot and heavy about these rookie quarterbacks. For my money, I want to talk about all these running backs that are getting a lot of playing time that probably won't get a lot of playing time come the regular season, but like Damian Harris's number 3, Ramondre Stevenson, Chuba Hubbard, Jarrett Patterson in Washington. Like these guys all are looking good in the preseason with, not necessarily starting offensive lines or starters around them. But in the situations they're given, they're looking better than advertised because, some of these guys are college free agents that got signed. So I'll start with you, Tara. When it comes to some of these young running backs, are you overreacting to some of what you're seeing? Has some of these guys got you excited and made you want to try to roster them in Dynasty or maybe put them on your radar in Dynasty? What's some of your takes on some of these guys and how do you feel about them?
Yeah, it's funny. I'm a Damian Harris truther, but I do roster Ramondre Stevenson, which is odd because I'm not a person that typically rosters New England running backs. But
probably smart that way.
He's so Garrett LeBlanc-esque that you just kind of have to take a chance that it really could be something. I don't think it'll be I'm going based off of New England running back history that it's not going to be something right now. I know it looks incredible, especially when you look at the stats. Like if you didn't
see the one big run,
exactly. If you didn't catch the game and didn't specifically look into it, you look and you're like, wow, holy crap, this guy. Yeah, it was one run, which is amazing. I mean, he's talented, but it's not like he was out there, playing a full half, dominating just carry after carry after carry. So it's two different things. But yeah, I think of all the backs, I'm probably the most interested in him in the long term from a dynasty perspective. But also, I mean, you can't deny that Hubbard is such a fantastic opportunity there. Don't have any shares in that one, which, is sad. But I think I love CMC. Unfortunately, we discovered that he is a human. So and it can happen that he can be like everybody else and go out for an entire season. So, and the beauty of that is that we discovered that whoever they have in there, they're going to utilize in the same, they're not going to deviate from their plan. And that presents a great opportunity. We saw it with Mike Davis, unfortunately he just wasn't used to that type of role and that he wasn't able to carry it out for the whole season. Which hopefully, in Atlanta, he can actually, now that he's going to be the guy, be prepared to carry that out, hopefully for the full season for his sake. But in terms of Carolina, I think, you got to look at their backup running back and think that that's such a great opportunity to have someone who you can plug in there and know exactly what his usage would be. Even if it's not the same talent level, he'll still be getting that amount, especially from a PPR perspective, the value that he can bring to your lineup right off the bat if he gets placed in that position.
Well, and the interesting thing about, a guy like Hubbard is Will Carolina learn from the mistake of 400 touches? You know, they gave Christian McCaffrey well over 400 touches, and it took a toll on him, you know, like it does any running back. I mean, that's just a heavy workload. You know, do they limit McCaffrey a little bit and get a guy like Hubbard involved in that running game a little more, or maybe some stuff out of the backfield as a receiver? You know, Mr. Sullivan, what do you take about these rookie running backs? You know, have any of them made you want to overreact and go Tony Jones and roster them, or what are you doing with them?
No, I kind of overreacted the opposite way to Ramondre, just because that 91-yard touchdown run never should have happened in the first place. I was watching that game. Ron Rivera calls timeout. Belichick is pissed. He's so mad that he called that timeout because he just basically wanted to run the clock out and go home. And then next thing you know, Ramondre's going off the edge and he's going 91 yards to the house. Great run. He looked fantastic. I'm more interested in his potential if all the stuff that you've been talking about happens. So if Sony leaves, or if one of those backs leaves, and especially if Mac Jones can take advantage of this 5-day COVID window he has in New England, he becomes the starting quarterback. Now you don't have a goal line running back also playing quarterback. That's how I think he can be, to Tara's point, LeGarrette Blount 2.0 and really be relevant. For now, I think he just belongs on your bench or your taxi roster of your dynasty league, and hope that he blossoms into something. Chuba, I think, has a role. And I think Chuba has a role because I think the 17th game is going to add a bit of workload across the NFL in these secondary running backs, because to your point of 400 touches, it could be 440 touches for McCaffrey if they used in the same way over a 17-game span. So I think there's some really interesting secondary running backs. Chuba's one of them. Gus Edwards is another. Guys that come to mind. It used to be Darrell Henderson, but now he's kind of the guy. So I think that happens. And Jared Patterson is really interesting to me. Where I struggle when I watch these games is I don't know how to assess these guys against probably second and third string defensive players that may or may not be on a roster after training camp. But when we were watching all of our rookie film this year, and I was watching him in Buffalo, I was like, holy crap. And again, competition played into that as well. Like my initial dynasty rookie rankings, he was my RB10. And then I started watching more and more film, and he started slowly coming down. But I don't know. He's an injury away from having a shot, I think. Like, he makes the team. And, like, he's not the biggest guy in the world, but he's quick, and he runs like a beast. So hopefully he has a role. I don't really know long-term what these guys look like, but I think they're absolutely guys that need to be on everybody's roster. And whether or not they become plug-and-play guys, time will tell.
There we go. Okay. So before our next batch of overreactions, Ra wants to know our thoughts on Debo Samuel. So you're not hearing a lot of talk about Ayuk and Debo right now in San Francisco, but should we be? You know, Debo is a guy who's been up and down with injuries. He's been a guy that, you know, coming out in that really nice wide receiver class that he came out with DK and AJ and some of them, he may be a little under the radar. Or is he not under the radar? Should we be ignoring him? Tara, what do you think about Debo, and what are you doing with him?
So he's very interesting. I have been taking a decent amount of him when I'm not. I do like taking Ayuk. I've been taking Debo when I don't get Ayuk because, I mean, just when you look at I think that Ayuk is the number one, but it's more of a 1A, 1B situation for me, just because of the talent potential there with Debo. And when you look at where he's being drafted, he's just such an incredible value if he can stay on the field. Now, I do get a little worried because, you know, even I think didn't like a glute injury pop up with him? Was that
Mm-hmm.
correct? Yeah.
He's already been nicked up this preseason as well.
Yeah. So to have that pop up right off the bat, it just kind of, you know, mentally makes you a little like, yeah, that's right. So when he's on the field, he's fantastic. It's just a matter of if he can be on the field. And the quarterback situation is a little, I felt like it was a clear Trey Lance before we started preseason. And now it seems like it's a clear, we have no idea what San Francisco will actually do at the quarterback situation, which kind of makes it a little bit harder to predict what's going to happen there. Then you have Kittle coming back. I like Debo. I love the talent. I love the value for him where you're getting him at as well. But yeah, I think he's like wide receiver, like mid-30s right now, which is pretty incredible, sitting around there with guys like, Tyler Boyd. And, it just seems like a good opportunity for where you're able to draft him. But I do get a little bit concerned. Just beware that when you're drafting him, beware of what you're doing in terms of needing to understand that you might need to be like one deeper at wide receiver to compensate for that in case there is injury history as well.
Because there's a heavy injury history.
Yeah.
Fortunately with him, he's just not been on the field long enough. And I was a huge Debo fan coming out. So I'm definitely a guy who was a big fan of him. I think he fits better with Jimmy Garoppolo because he's such a solid route runner. And Jimmy Garoppolo being the veteran, he needs to know where his guy's going to be and he can put the ball in the spot. With Trey Lance, I feel like a guy like Ayuk has a better opportunity because he can be more of your big play threat. And Trey Lance is still young, is still developing, even at the quarterback position, and isn't going to be so pinpoint accurate as a guy like Jimmy could be. So it almost feels like, depending on who your starting quarterback is, one or the other is going to be a more enticing wide receiver prospect. But Debo, I think, is more talented as a kind of a route technician, as opposed to where Ayuk is more of your big play guy. So it's so hard to really figure out which one I want to hitch my wagon to, but I like them both. You really can't go wrong with them. I want pieces of this offense at some point or another. But Mr. Sullivan, what do you think about him?
It's interesting, right? Like, I think he almost had negative ADOT last year, and he's just such a run after the catch type of player. But that whole offense is so hard to get a read on because Garoppolo missed half the season. Kittle missed 8 games, or Jimmy missed 10 games. Kittle missed 8. Debo missed like 6. Ayuk missed 3 or 4 himself. So it's really hard to figure out what the heck's going on there. And now you add the component of Trey Lance into the equation as well. So I agree 100% with you, Brad. I think that if Garoppolo's the quarterback, I'm going to slide my chips a little bit to the Debo side of the table. But if Lance is the QB, I'm going to slide them all into the Ayuk side of the table. So plus there's dynamics coming out of that backfield. It's all over the place. And Trent Sherfield is a thing now. It's Lance's favorite target.
Only in San Francisco, I'll tell you.
What are you going to do?
Absolutely crazy. So there you go, rah. Hopefully we helped you out and made your – I have no idea what we did. It may not have helped you at all. Hopefully it did, but we'll
probably
see.
Not.
So back to overreacting to preseason. Tara, who are some people or individuals that you're either overreacting to or underreacting to? What have you been thinking about this preseason so far?
I'm overreacting to Zack Wilson, but I think everybody is now coming around. And maybe it's an overreaction to me. I'm not I'm not crazy, but I can admit I was not high on Zack Wilson at all. I was avoiding him. I did end up taking him in one dynasty league because I was like, I'd like to. You ever get to where you're, drafting? You're like, I would like to try one of these. I would like to try, I want to try one Zack Wilson.
100%.
When you're in enough leagues, you go crazy from time to time and do some fun stuff.
So I've been, pretty excited because now I'm like, maybe that league will be something a little bit different than I was expecting. But yeah, I mean, when you look at him, oh boy, he looks like. It makes sense now. But, before I thought it was very odd how the Jets were very, very sold. They weren't exploring a Justin Fields, who I've, thought was, of the entire group besides Trevor Lawrence, obviously, was the most NFL ready from my perspective. And you see Zack Wilson come up there and he's ready. I understand we're not playing against, first string full defenses, but he looks fantastic. He's not overthrowing. He's locked in. He is connecting with receivers. The connection with Corey Davis looks fantastic. Highly accurate. And, that's something that I look at. Is he a little, is a rookie getting out there? Is he skittish? Is he overthrowing his receivers? Is he looking a little shaky? Like he's unsure of what to do? Are his reads a little confusing? And Zack Wilson just looks good. Like he's fully capable and he understands what he's doing and he's ready to step out there and play his first, full season in the NFL. So I'm pretty excited about it. I think that, it's a good situation. Well, it's a good situation from a fantasy perspective. I don't know if it is from him, from a, player perspective that they are going to have to throw the ball a lot. I know they want to rely on the run and that's all good in theory. But unfortunately, I think they are going to have to throw the ball a lot, and they are going to have to rely on Zack Wilson, and he seems like he's prepared to take on that heavy load.
Mr. Sullivan, what do you think?
I'm totally on board with all of that. It's exactly the same thing. He was down in my rankings. I wasn't that high on him. I thought he was going to come in and be a good NFL quarterback, but not really do so much for fantasy. And then I watch him play after I've been reading reports that he worked a lot on his footwork in the offseason and all this other stuff. And you watch him play and you're like, damn, he did, because the way he's rolling out and extending plays and turning his hips at the right time to throw those sideline routes, he's really impressive. And that ball coming out of his hand is coming out with zip, and it's bang on the money. Tera's 100% right. He's got a great relationship going with Corey Davis. Tyler Kroft looked like Gronk on the weekend. And their defense is injured and not very good. So I agree. I think they're going to have to throw the football, and I think that they're going to do whatever they can to score points because they're going to have to. But man, I really like him. I'm totally surprised that I like him as much as I do by the 2 preseason games that I've watched. But I don't think I've found anything that I don't like about him right now.
The poise is what was the most surprising to me. When you watch Trevor Lawrence so far in his games in Jacksonville, or you've watched, Trask or Trey Lance or any of these other rookies, you see a little bit of jitters, and for rightfully so. Jacksonville's offensive line is not doing what it's supposed to do, but the Jets' offensive line is not really great either. We've seen some Mekhi Becton in there, which is good, but you haven't seen Elijah Vera Tucker, their other first-round pick. He's been recovering from injury. The offensive line is not their strong suit right now, but he's still, playing very well and very poised and very calm in the pocket, which is exciting. I've actually more been overreacting to Corey Davis because of what Zack Wilson's been doing. I've been trying to acquire Corey Davis. I'm like, this guy loves targeting Corey Davis. And I liked Corey Davis coming out, but obviously we know what happened with Tennessee. And now I'm like, okay, maybe he beats career numbers with the Jets, which I would have never anticipated. This rookie class as a whole from the Jets, I think looking back, we're going to be surprised with how well they drafted. I liked Michael Carter, and I targeted him in almost every rookie draft I had because I liked him as much as Javonte Williams, and he went to a spot where I could see him easily being the starter week 1, even though I wasn't sure with Tevin Coleman there. So I targeted him, but I'm an IDP guy. All these converted safeties and linebackers I think will be really good for this team. I mean, it's just a fun rookie class, and I'm really excited about the Jets and the direction they're going. This could be a Jets team that finally turns it around, which is nice because they deserve a winner there, with the Jets because they've worked hard over these years. And as a Lions guy, I can appreciate when teams are finally turning things around.
I'm overreacting to the whole offense. Elijah Moore hasn't even played yet. Like, can't wait to see him out there. So yeah, I'm pretty stoked for that whole offense. I don't think I've ever been excited for New York Jets offense in my entire life. So.
But I'm not buying Tyler Kroft. I'm not overreacting to Tyler Kroft.
Oh, 100%. I'm all in.
No, I'm leaving the tight ends on this team alone for now until you prove it. Tyler Kroft has been a guy that's bit us over the years, whether it's in Cincy or Buffalo. We're like, oh, there's no one else on this roster. He's got to do something. He's done nothing. So that's the only position where I'm like, listen,
how dare you? How dare you?
I'm even taking shots on these IDP rookie linebackers in my IDP leagues over a guy like Tyler Kroft. Like, give me everything else. No, not a tight end.
We gotta stand for some Jets tight end now because we've had Herndon for years that we've wanted to be something. So now we got to shift over to Kroft. So for the fandom, come on,
all aboard the Kroft Express.
I was hoping when they picked up Kenny Yeboah, I was like, well, maybe the Yeboah kid will do something, and then Tyler Kroft, I'm like, oh no, I'm not falling for this one. They pulled that football off from under my foot way too many times.
Jeez, Charlie Brown, what a sorry sort.
All right, Mr. Sullivan. So who you're overreacting to?
It's the entire quarterback class. It's Zack Wilson, who I'm surprised as heck with and like a lot. I am like ridiculously in love with Justin Fields and what that kid has been doing. Trey Lance looks good. He looks a little bit here and there. And I know people are like starting to be concerned about Trevor Lawrence. That's nuts. Like, easily the most pro-ready quarterback coming into this draft. He's lights out. Give him a couple of days here. Give him a couple of weeks. Let the paint dry. He's going to be phenomenal. And I think this quarterback class, like you look back at 2018 with the Baker and Lamar and Rosen and Allen, and I might be missing someone in there. I was wrong on that one because I was a big Josh Rosen guy, but hey, that didn't really work out, but he got another job. So I just think this class has the chance to, as a unit, really succeed in this league. And I think it's really exciting because we're kind of getting at that time of the league where we got to turn this stuff over a little bit, right? Like Breeze left last year. Tom's going to move in a couple of, Brady might play till he's 50, but he's coming towards the end.
15 years. Yeah.
Rivers retired. Like we need a changing of the guard at the quarterback position. And I think this draft class really sets us up to have that. I like them all.
I don't even know what to say about that. You like them all.
I like them all.
There's your take. Tara, is there anything you do? Okay, so this is the question that we need to ask then. Tara, is there anything about this class you don't like?
I had not thought about it from that perspective.
Well, seeing as he's so positive they're all Hall of Famers, let's figure out what's wrong with these guys.
That's a very good question. I had not thought about it. I've only thought about the ones that I really like. So yeah.
What a jerk.
So Kellen Mond, he's with your Vikings, Sully. Tara, how do you feel about Kellen Mond?
So of the little bit that I've watched of Keelan Mond, my first reaction was, has he played football before? He's been terrible, like straight up terrible. Like Jake Browning looks better than Mond is the number 2 in Minnesota. Cousins, they'll just ride him into the dirt this year and we'll see what happens. But I was really hoping that Mond would come in and have a little bit of sizzle. You know, he's mobile, right? He can move, he can run. I was hoping he would do some of that. He hasn't done anything. Like, he's looked really bad. And I don't know if it was missing the onset of camp with the COVID situation. Can't be a good thing for any player, let alone a rookie trying to learn the playbook and get into an offense. Mike Zimmer's mad at the whole organization like he always is, especially about the vaccination rates. Mond is one of those, the Thielen and Cousins who isn't. So there's a lot of weird things going on behind the scenes in Minnesota. But as far as on field, no, I don't like at all what I've been seeing there at all. New.
As you can tell, Sully's passionate about his Vikings. Tara, what do you think about Mond? And what do you think about some of this next level of quarterbacks? You know, Mond, Trask, Ellinger, you know, some of these next
Felipe
guys. Yeah, Felipe Franks.
So I'll talk about Mond because I'm actually in Houston. So I see a lot of Texas A&M games. Yeah. So and I was very surprised by people who had a lot of happy reactions to him potentially being the heir apparent in Minnesota, because for me, he's a guy who is at level. It doesn't get any better than what he has right now. Because if you think about it, he was he started his entire time at Texas A&M, and there was never really much of a difference. It was Kellen Mond, the same Kellen Mond every single year. You never really saw any progression in his game, any change. So from my perspective, if you go a whole full year for 4 full years in college and you never really have any progression in your development, what are you really going to develop into the NFL? So from my perspective, I just never really saw it happening. I never really had any thought that was going to turn anything. He's not someone that I took any dynasty shares up at all. So from that perspective, I was a little hopeful for Trask. Just because I thought that if he fell into the right situation, because he's a very specific quarterback, and if he fell into the right situation of his style of play, like I thought maybe like a Pittsburgh, I thought he might be the heir apparent in Pittsburgh, that it would make sense. But I don't know. I don't really feel like he's got a big future. I do think that Brady is probably going to, I don't see any reason that he's going to actually stop playing in the NFL this year. So from my perspective, it's not like Trask is going to get a chance in the near future. So I don't really think that, I mean, maybe Ellinger is interesting just because he's more of a gritty player. So it's possible that he could, given the opportunity, make something of himself. And he probably will have the opportunity. It sounds like he's, not that far off from Jacob Eason and the whole Wentz situation. I understand it sounds awesome that he's going to come back and maybe be here for week 1, which is fantastic, because I was hopeful that he would be able to turn it around and have a good situation in Indianapolis. But unfortunately, I hate to talk injury prone, but he's unfortunately injury prone. So you got to imagine that someone on that roster behind him is maybe going to get a chance at some point during the season. So if you're banking on someone between the two, it might be good to look at Allinger.
I like it. See,
hey, Brad, can I ask you a question?
Maybe.
What do you make? What are you making of Davis Mills? Is he eventually going to take over down there, or is he going to sit? Like, I haven't seen any of their preseason games. I don't prioritize Houston Texans football these days. I don't know. Tara, you're in Houston. What's the talk? Is he coming? Is he going to get in there, or is it Tera going to just lead the Texans this year?
Well, I'm a gentleman, so ladies first.
I don't hear anything about him potentially pushing for a starting job. But to be fair, there is a lot of Deshaun noise that kind of overshadows everything. So it's possible that maybe that's just not a narrative that's getting put out there very much.
Yeah, and I obviously being the Devy guy at RotoHeat as well, I've watched plenty of Davis Mills at Stanford. I don't dislike the quarterback. I mean, he does a good job. His ball placement's good. He's got good velocity. He's more of an older school type quarterback. Like, I don't think you're going to see him doing a ton of running and a ton outside of maybe some bootlegs. If he went to Atlanta, I'd have seen, okay, I see where they're going. Matt Ryan could transition to this kid. In Houston, I feel like because I don't anticipate this coaching staff sticking around very long because this is just a mess of a team, I don't know that he really ever gets the chance to become that guy because I think they're going to let Tyrod be the guy as long as he doesn't get hurt. And we know that as good as Tyrod can be, he also is just as good at getting hurt at the weirdest times to make the young.
Oh, and he got stabbed by his own trainer, for goodness sakes. Give him a break.
Well, I was thinking more of, the Brown situation with Baker where he just gets hurt in the preseason game and then Baker's got it, takes over. It's like, so Davis Mills can be functional. I just don't think he's a guy that's a franchise quarterback. From a fantasy perspective, I don't think he's a guy that, you're going to want to build your roster around. Is he a guy that you can put on your taxi squad and if something happens, you immediately flip him for some sort of value? Absolutely. Like, you stash him, and as soon as he gets on the field, you flip him and feel good about getting literally anything in return.
Gotcha. Thank you.
So that's my feeling on him. All right. So before we go on to the next overreaction, Bravo wants to know, someone dropped Michael Pittman. Should I drop Debo, Chase, or Waddle to pick him up?
Find somebody else to drop.
Yeah.
I need more context. I need roster size, scoring format. You don't drop any of those guys. And I don't know who dropped Michael Pittman, but good Lord, find a way to get them all on your roster.
Yeah. Tara, are you taking Pittman over? Okay. So we're all in agreement. I don't think you drop any of the three you have, albeit if you had to pick one, it would be Debo because of the injury issues, but I would look elsewhere, but there's so much context that's missing. Roster size, scoring, how many wide receivers are you starting? I mean, all that plays in the equation. So Bravo, I wouldn't be quick to go jump on Pittman unless you have something that you can get rid of or it makes sense. These three guys are three guys you should want to build around. Your rookies, you're definitely not dropping. That just I don't care how bad people are talking about Jamar Chase right now. Give him time to get back in sync. He's been off for a year and a half. It's going to take him some time.
Is that something to overreact to?
Yeah, if you're going to trade me Jamar Chase, overreact to how bad he sounds, and I'll trade for him.
But he looks horrific, right?
Not horrific, but he doesn't look like. I don't think it's something to overreact to. He's just not football ready right now, but that's what preseason is for. He's got some time. He just has things that he needs to work out. Just beware people that are in redraft. I mean, I guess, it could go two ways. If you're in a league where people are paying attention to news, then maybe you take advantage of that if he starts to fall. Otherwise, he's been someone that I've been not taking just because in general, I felt like he was a little bit too high in ADP to take versus a T Higgins that is more of a guarantee on that team. But yeah, I'm not overreacting to it. It is what it is. He's very talented. And I just think there's a lot going on in terms of him being able to step in there and maybe just some rookie jitters that he needs to get through.
Yeah.
Brad?
Like I said,
No?
if you're going to overreact and trade him to me, then do that. But otherwise,
Well, I don't think you
don't go
necessarily
crazy.
have to trade him or cut him to overreact to what's happening.
No,
You
I'm
know,
not
like,
overreacting.
I've been getting beat up by my RotoHeat team all offseason because I've had Kyle Pitts ahead of Jamar Chase. And I haven't really seen Kyle Pitts do anything yet, so I can't really compare the two in that department. But if I had Jamar Chase on my roster, and I do have him on a few, I'm not cutting him. I'm not trading him, but I'm sure concerned about him. The only thing that keeps me somewhat positive about it is I haven't seen Joe Burrow really throwing him the football yet. You know, I don't care what Brandon Allen does. No disrespect meant to Allen and his family, but I want Joe Burrow under center throwing the ball in Cincinnati. I just don't know. I think Tyler Boyd has a heck of a lot bigger role than people are thinking he's going to have, and I think T. Higgins does as well, and I think Joe Mixon does. So I just don't know if there's enough to go around there, and I'm a little bit concerned. Not overreacting, but I'm concerned.
So and I know this will be near and dear to your heart, Tara, is Higgins better than Chase? Is Clemson better than LSU?
Yes, we are the better Tigers, we're the better Death Valley. Yes, I will go on record saying that. Don't come at me, LSU fans. I'm sorry, because there are a ton here in Houston. So
Really?
Yeah,
I bet.
Oh yeah.
Interesting.
Mm-hmm. But they're very friendly.
well, that's as long as they don't know you're a Clemson fan, right?
No, I think they like the Tigers connection. They're actually I don't know. I guess they feel like, a kinship of, excellent organizations. So maybe from that perspective.
I like it. It's always good to make sure that everyone knows you're better. Your teams are better than theirs. So from the fantasy side of things, is Higgins better than Chase?
Oh boy. That one's a tough one for me. That's a 1A and 1B situation. I assumed that Chase would rise up above him because of the connection to Burrow and that maybe there would be some favoritism there. But aside from that, I don't see a big discrepancy between the talent level. And when we're looking at this year in particular, we're looking at someone who is ready to play, is, experienced versus somebody who is not ready to step in there to the same level that T is. So if I'm looking at them right now, it's definitely Higgins for me. In the long term, I don't think you can go wrong with either one, but one is definitely going to be cheaper from a dynasty perspective. So, I mean, if you're looking at it from that position, then you probably should be targeting Higgins just because of the massive value that is on Chase right now.
Okay. Mr. Sullivan.
Oh man, I don't know how you can make I can't make a case for that's crazy. I just think that these are two exceptionally talented wide receivers, and I think right now, yes, T. Higgins is a better wide receiver than Jamar Chase. Will he be in 2 weeks from now? I have no idea. Where I pause a little bit again on Chase is if Burrow does try to feed Chase because of that familiarity and it's not working, how fast before he kind of leans on Tyler Boyd and T. Higgins. But I don't think that makes Jamar Chase not a good football player. I think Jamar Chase is a guy in a redraft league I'd be very afraid to draft right now, and T. Higgins I would be happily adding to my rosters. But, this is a dynasty show, and we play primarily dynasty leagues. Give me all the Jamar Chase I can get. When I don't have first overall to take Kyle Pitts, Brad, I'll just take Jamar Chase second and be happy with him there. I got Kyle Pitts in on the show again. Brad gives me crap every week for bringing him up. So sorry I cut you off. Go ahead.
No, that's okay, because I was actually gonna say that I would agree with you. I thought your take on you having Kyle Pitts higher than Jamar Chase is that's not a bad take in my opinion. When you look at the opportunity there positionally, what he's going to be compared to, there are multiple Chases to get. I mean, he's a great talent, but there are multiple of those. There's not multiple Pitts. So I see the argument there for why he would be the priority.
You want to clip that for me, Brad, if you don't mind? Thank you very much.
I won't hold it against you, Tara. You are
Tara's
an amazing follow on Twitter, and you do some amazing content, but I will not hold it against you. No, I'm just kidding. I don't blame anybody for going with the elite tight end because the tight end situation in fantasy has been really top heavy for a while now, but I think that's changing. I mean, you're seeing so many talented young tight ends over the last couple of drafts come into the league. I know last year was weak, but Cole Kmet is awesome. So I would say you're probably going to see within the next few years, there'll be, 10 to 12 to 13 really talented tight ends. So the Kyle Pitts of the world is not, it's not going to be such a rarity. I mean, yes, Kyle Pitts is an elite athlete and really an intriguing option from a fantasy perspective, but look at what we're seeing come into the league. I mean, there's some really nice options, even down there in Houston. I loved Brevin Jordan coming in.
Yeah.
I think he could turn into a nice pass catcher for them. If they have if they have the targets to go around, obviously we saw Freiermuth go off this week against Detroit.
That's another one to overreact to.
I mean, and that's not even mentioning some of these other tight ends that were drafted this year. So I love Kyle Pitts. I think he will be a really nice fantasy piece, but I'm not overreacting and drafting a tight. I mean, depending on league setting, tight end premium, fine. I have no problem with that.
Well, that's a no-brainer.
Yeah. So, but
how long is he a tight end for is my biggest worry.
As long as Taysom Hill.
There's that too.
Look at that. Coming in with the good there. Okay. So before we end the show, we've got a Clemson fan and we have a Clemson alum in here. How's Justin Ross looking? What are you hearing about Justin Ross? Because as a Devy guy, as a guy that, Justin Ross should have been wide receiver 1 in any of the last 2 drafts. How's he coming back from the neck injury? Have you heard anything at all?
I'm hearing only positive news. Now that could be that I'm only looking at Clemson sources of information. So I'm not going to hear negatives, but, overall, I think he's still in a good position. I wouldn't have any fears, in my opinion. I'm not a Devy person, so I don't have a lot to compare him to. Once we get in season, I'll have more of a comparison and start paying attention to the other teams. But
Sure.
But from my perspective, it's still a good situation with him.
Oh, but I love the wide receiving core in Clemson. I mean,
Yeah.
Can't go wrong with Ladson and Nada. I mean, and you've got depth. I mean, with EJ Williams. I mean, and then Justin Ross just comes back. It's like
Hearing a lot of positive about Nada. So I mean,
good.
But that's Clemson receivers, man. We have multiple options every single year. It's a beautiful thing.
It is a beautiful thing, and you have another quarterback that may not be Trevor Lawrence, but DJ is a nice new toy for that offense. So it'll be very exciting to see how that goes.
Yes.
Clemson people are nice too. Hey, like the more and more people we interact with this offseason, Tara, you've been a great guest. Yeah. Our FYF friends, Simon and JL are the Clemson alums as well. So I think I'm gonna go buy some orange. I'm gonna jump on the bandwagon this year.
The beautiful thing about Clemson is that you have to go to a game, because the best thing about Clemson fans is that you show up for the tailgate. It doesn't matter if you're not actually a Clemson fan. They will all invite you to come and sit down and eat with them and drink with them and offer you all kinds of,
I'm in. Brad, let's go to a game and you can do your Devy studies firsthand.
Oh, I've been cramming film all summer long.
I know you are. I know you are.
As a guy from Metro Detroit, as a Michigan man myself, it's hard to
watch
to
college
look at
football?
other teams. Well, yes, it is right. At least for the last 21 years, yeah. But looking at a team like Clemson, they're doing it right. Obviously everybody hates Alabama, but I think them and teams like Georgia and LSU and a lot of the SEC schools really do a good job at building their rosters.
Yeah.
And I'm excited to see how it goes. It'll be fun. We got college football coming back on Saturday. It may not be the most intriguing games, but there's still some fun stuff to watch. And your Clemson team doesn't play for another week and a half. I think they don't start till the week after. But it'll be fun to get back to some college ball to go with this NFL stuff. And we probably scared away all the people that were watching for Dynasty Talk, but I don't care. We have somebody from Clemson on. I'm going to ask them about Clemson because there's some very NFL relevant players that'll be coming out from this roster, even next year. Justin Ross has to come out. I think he's a senior, is like a fifth-year senior or something. So
it's time.
It is time. All right. So one question before we end it out. how's Amari Rogers going to do in Green Bay? So there's another Clemson alum for you to talk about, Tara. So how do you feel about Amari in Green Bay? What are you expecting from him?
Okay, so I'll answer it from a dynasty perspective because that's a lot more positive. Unfortunately, I got hit in the gut from a redraft perspective when we signed Randall Cobb. But yeah, from a dynasty perspective, I'm still super high on Amari Rogers. I was very optimistic that because he came in specifically for that slot role, that he was going to get play right off the bat, and maybe mid-season would be viable potentially for a low-end flex play. But unfortunately, I think there's going to be too much of a target split with all of the options there, and now having to split with Randall Cobb as well, who will get some favoritism. But from a dynasty perspective, I mean, you have to love the opportunity that he's going to have to come in there and learn directly from Randall Cobb to be Randall Cobb. I mean, that's the goal right there for him. So to get that opportunity, and they already have a close relationship. His Randall Cobb's or his Amari Rogers' dad coached Randall Cobb. So there's already that connection. Yeah, there's that connection there. So they actually, I think he told him that Green Bay wanted to draft him, or he was the first one to actually tell Amari Rogers that. So there's a connection there already. So you have someone that's going to come in there. He's already got a friendship with him, and he's going to want to and be willing to train and teach Amari Rogers everything he knows. So it's going to be a beautiful thing. So in my opinion, unfortunately, we're not going to get what I was hoping for this year from him, but from a long-term perspective, this is a positive situation for him. So just wait a second on him. Don't give up. If it's not anything at all for this year, because Aaron is out there throwing to his favorite people in the world, which is probably going to happen, don't panic. Keep a hold of him. It's going to be a good situation long-term.
Sullivan, you agree?
Yeah, I do. I just really, really want Amari Rogers to catch the first couple of balls come his way. If you don't catch Aaron Rodgers' targets, they tend to dry up pretty quick. So realistically, he's probably still the third best pass catching option outside of the running backs on that roster. So Randall Cobb's not the most durable guy in the world, and he's getting up there in age. So I'm not wishing ill on Randall Cobb, but I would really like Amari Rogers to get a shot this year because I really like him. And I agree from a dynasty perspective. Going forward, I really like him as well. I'm just a little bit concerned on who might be his quarterback going forward. That's all.
Yeah, I would have loved Amari Rogers to go to a place that needed some help, not only in the slot, but at the running back, because, you heard throughout the draft process that he was working with the running backs, and everything you saw, he looked so good at every position, whether it was playing in the slot or playing as a running back. That's what I wanted to see. But in Green Bay, they don't need a running back, and now they don't need a slot receiver. So I'm with you guys. It's definitely dynasty for him. He's a stash. And even, as soon as this happened, I went out and tried to acquire a couple of Amari shares to see if the owners were down on him and stash him for the future. So, and you should still be able to, even if not. I mean, there's plenty of reasons for people to want to trade a guy like Amari Rogers, because most people look at, even in Dynasty, most of the leagues I'm in, people are trying to win now, and they want to win now. So a guy like Amari is a piece that you could target either now or as soon as the season's over, and maybe he hasn't had a spectacular year. Target him, add him, and feel good about the depth that you'll get from him in the future.
Well said.
All right, so we ran just a few minutes over. Thank you guys for hanging out with us as always. Tara, it has been an honor to have you on. I really absolutely loved everything that you brought to the table. You're such a fun person to talk to. We do this at the end of every show. I want to give you the floor. Tell everybody where they can find you, what you're up to, how to show some love and support. And thank you, as always, for hanging out with us.
Thank you. Yeah, thank you guys for having me. As far as where you can find me, definitely, follow me on Twitter. Twitter is the best place to find all of my content. I try to post everything that I do there. I recently joined over the past couple of weeks, joined Fantasy Pros. So I'm really excited about that. So you can check out my content on Fantasy Pros. Most of the stuff that I have up right now is on their TikTok. We're really trying to get TikTok going. So I've got some TikTok videos, some short player videos up there as well. We'll have some information on mock drafts. So check that out. Good little quick tidbits over there. I'll be on the YouTube channel as well, participating on live streams, more stuff as we go in season. And then as always, I do co-host regular show of the Dynasty Vipers Behind the Grind series. We have Right now it's every Monday, but I think we're going to be switching to Wednesday once we get in season, so we avoid that Monday Night Football issue. But for sure, find me on the Dynasty Vipers YouTube channel as well, and podcast as well, and subscribe to us on Apple and YouTube. And those are the main places to find me. And little plug as well, Dynasty Vipers tomorrow night at 9:00 p.m., I believe, Eastern time. We're going to be doing a mock draft. And we've never done one before with the whole team. So if you want to pop in and see us do a mock draft, it should be pretty fun. Potentially some arguments, a little friendly. We're
Nice.
very friendly family environment. So there'll be a little family banter going on. So it'll be pretty enjoyable.
It's a great crew, and that's where I first came across you, Tera, and then started following you on Twitter, and I've been following you ever since. That's a great show, and it's absolutely a channel that people need to subscribe to. You guys have done a great job this offseason. Your guests have been amazing, and your content is awesome. So, and congrats on Fantasy Pros. That's pretty cool.
Thank you.
Well done.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Thank you, guys.
I've been doing IDP rankings on there for feels like forever, hoping that they would ever consider me as anything on there, because Fantasy Pros does a great job. You guys, obviously being newer to the team, you know of them, I'm sure, and you have a vast knowledge of them, but they've been a good spot to look at for quite some time. So I'm excited for you, and it'll be a fun time. Make sure you guys, all of our I think we're up like 2,200 here on YouTube. Make sure you guys go over there and show some love. They do excellent work. Just like everybody else, our Monday night show will not be going on during the season because y'all are going to want to watch the Manning brothers way more than you're going to want to see my face. So we will be moving shows as well. We'll have.
I like you. I'll watch. I'd watch. Do you want to stream and watch the game together? We could do it Monday night.
Oh, we're
Nice.
gonna sit on. You want to sit on couches like the Manning brothers?
Sure.
And we can
Sure.
stream couches, watching couches.
I think that'd be fun.
It would be something for sure. So just like I said last night, if anybody watched the IDP show last night, in season IDP is going to be gone. We're just going to be doing written content. But Tuesday night we'll keep this show, the Dynasty show, and then Wednesday night will be redraft. DFS content like crazy. We've got some cool stuff that our fearless leader Rick has done that's in the pipe as well. So we've got some partnerships and things going on there. And you'll see lots of video content and written stuff. So please subscribe, do all the things I tell you to do every time you see my face here on YouTube. Thank you guys as always for hanging out with us. We love every one of you guys. Take care of yourselves, and we will see you next week.
Thanks. Bye.
Also, right there, playlist. Hit it. Watch the videos. Do it.